So now is the second day and we continue to make our wholesome carrot cake with salted caramel cheesecake inside. And today we're going to finish this cake. Now we will be making salted caramel. We're going to make a cheesecake, salted caramel cheesecake, and we will assemble our cake. So let's get started with salted caramel. For salted caramel, we need to blend all ingredients in high-speed blender, and it will be super fast to do. The only one thing that you needed to prepare for this component ingredient is to soak your dates, and I prefer to use medjool dates for this recipe because they have the most caramel flavor and taste. So now I have medjool dates peated. It's 100 grams, and I soak them about 20-30 minutes in warm water. It's very important because it will be easier for you to blend all caramel in completely smooth texture without any pieces of dates. So we put the first our dates, maple syrup, and maple syrup again give us amazing caramel flavor. Almond butter. I use sprouted almond butter from my course and all information about my course in the description. And we're going to add mesquite powder. Mesquite powder, it's a superfood with a very caramel hint, and if you can find this ingredient, it would be amazing. If you can't find it, just add the same amount of salt as we added. So we just added a half of teaspoon of pink salt, and I'm adding 2 teaspoons of mesquite powder. If you don't have mesquite powder, add 1 teaspoon of salt, but please try to find mesquite powder. You will feel amazing real caramel flavor and taste if you use this spice. Okay, like usually we blend everything and we're adding coconut oil, melted coconut oil at the end of the process. So we don't have a lot of butter into our jar. It is a little bit complicated for Vitamix to blend it into the smooth consistency. That's why even though the butter is not completely smooth, we're going to add our coconut oil to make a little bit more volume inside of the jar. Now we need to add our salted caramel into the piping bag because it will be easier for us to spread it inside of our cake. We don't need to put it into the refrigerator, just leave it somewhere near you. And let's make salted caramel cheesecake. For salted caramel cheesecake, I'm not going to clean my jar, so this salted date caramel hint is totally perfect for our cheesecake, and that's why we made first caramel. And for cheesecake we will be using soaked cashews. Again, almond butter. I will be using sprouted raw almond butter, almond milk, maple syrup, Ceylon cinnamon like a spices, a little bit of vanilla, and coconut oil. As usual, first we put our soaked cashews. Then we add our liquids. It's almond milk, it's our maple syrup, a little bit of vanilla, almond butter, Ceylon cinnamon, and a little bit of salt. Now we're blending everything and adding coconut oil at the end of the process. On the low speed we add coconut oil. That is all. I'm not going to spread this cheesecake anywhere. I'm leaving it into the jar until assembling the cake. And now let's prepare everything for assembling the cake. So we are ready to set up our cake, and we have our picture in front of us to remember step by step what we need to put inside of our mold. So our cake is 6 inches, it's around 15 centimeters. I'll be using acetate stripe. It will be easier for me to remove the cake from the mold, and also it makes my mold taller. So please find this acetate stripe. I have 4 inches tall, and it will make your life easier, and it costs around $16, depends on the height of the stripe, and you will see how many you will get. So it's really for thousands of cakes. Yeah, so it's great investment, and you will save your time. You will see why. So for cake, right now we have our carrot cake sponge, we have our vanilla cashew cream, candied walnuts, salted caramel, and also we have our salted caramel cheesecake. First, we need to put on the bottom our first layer of carrot cake sponge. Second layer is our cashew vanilla cream, and we have it into 2 piping bags. You should remember it. We make a small hole, not small, so it will be probably like a little bit less than 1 inch up, and we spread it on the walls. We create white borders right now for putting our caramel. On top of our sponge we put our caramel. It should be quite a thick layer, and on top of this caramel we put our candied walnuts, and we spread our cashew cream on top of this caramel layer. And now I want to make even white layer. Very important that near the walls of your mold you spread very carefully your cream, because on top will be spread our cheesecake, and it shouldn't go down to the lower layer to the lower level of our cake. Now we need to spread our salted caramel cheesecake. So I spread all my cheesecake inside of this mold. What we do next? We need to tap a few times. Now we need to put our cake into the freezer for 1.5 to 2 hours, and only when the cheesecake will be quite hard we will spread the second layer of our cashew cheese, cream cheese, our caramel, and the last step is our second carrot cake sponge. So now we put it into the freezer for, let's say, 2 hours. Let's we put next layer. So I have a second batch of our cashew cream. If it is not too soft to spread, leave it into your counter for about 20 minutes, or you can try to make it a little bit warmer with your hands, like I do it right now. I would say that my cheesecake is not too hard, so if you press it you can see that it is a little bit soft inside, but we will be very carefully. And now first I need to make an even layer of our cream, and on top I will put our caramel. Okay, and like last time, let's Spread it evenly. And we need to create some borders. Okay, our caramel. Spread a little bit of nuts. We try to press everything inside a little bit. Great, and we put our last sponge. We press a little bit. We need to try to create even layer on the top. So we finished with our cake. Next step is the frosting, and we have in our refrigerator a big piping bag with a frosting cream. Right now we have two options. If you want to continue the frosting process today, you need to put your cake into the freezer for at least 2-3 hours, or you can put it into the refrigerator overnight and you can continue your frosting tomorrow. So this is up to you, and we will see each other just in a couple of seconds and we will continue to frost it. And one more thing, do not eat your caramel right now, we'll be using it for decoration. What we do next? We have caramel as leftovers from our filling, and right now we need to prepare it to be drizzles on our cake. And for us it's very important that our drizzles will not fall down completely or will not make like a wet cake. For this we need to add raw cacao butter inside. But how can we know how much cacao butter we need to put? First we need to wait how many of salted caramel we have right now in grams. We have 120 grams of our caramel. It means that we need a half of this weight of raw cacao butter melted. So we need to wait right now 60 grams of raw cacao butter and then melt it using double boiler method. So I'm chopping and I will melt about 55-60 grams of our raw cacao butter. We have some pieces of raw cacao butter not melted, but that is totally okay. It will be melted by itself right now. Let's just continue to shake. Now, if you have a thermometer, you can check the temperature and it will be around 115 Fahrenheit. It's quite hot for adding into our caramel. If you don't have a thermometer, it's totally okay. You just need to know that it's quite hot if you touch it from the bottom. So just let it cool down for about I don't know, 5, 7, 10 minutes while you will be washing the dish, for example. If you can touch at the bottom and it is not too hot, we can mix it with the caramel. Let's check the temperature. It's 99.2 Fahrenheit, so it's perfect. So now we can add it into the caramel in few steps and start to mix everything together. Once you mix everything together into one emulsion, we put our caramel into the piping bag. And let's grab our cake. So that is all. That is what I wanted to achieve. I wanted like a big, thick caramel drizzles, such big that you want to grab it. By the way, we have our candied walnuts, so let's rearrange it around this top cake. So for now we really finished with this cake. Again, put it into the refrigerator for about 3 hours and we will be ready to cut it.